everyone, I'm your host Pensyfan19 and welcome to the January 2026 Pensyfan Periodical. This is the monthly news series which covers most of the major railroading headlines from around the world, as well as my opinions on them. We have a lot of articles to go over today, so with that in mind, let's get rolling. First off, might as well start off with a rather unusual opening news story that directly relates to me personally, as I speedran the entirety of the Long Island Railroad in just over 24 hours on January 2nd, in addition to the entirety of Virginia Railway Express 1 week later on the 9th. For this run, I stopped at every single IRR station by taking a picture of each one while recording the transfers, starting with the first train today at Montauk at 1 a.m., and ending with the last train today at Port Jefferson, arriving the next day at 2 a.m. This speed run is now logged with Transit Runs, a group of people who speedrun transit systems around the world, and it also serves as the main site where more famous and more frequent speedrun attempts are logged, such as for DC Metro and BART. Because of how big of a feat this run is, this ultimately resulted in my first face reveal for this channel, although I won't be using my face for future periodicals since it would take way longer to render. Whereas the IRR speedrun took 24 hours, 42 minutes, and 4 seconds, and consisted of 20 trains and 19 transfers, 5 of which being at Jamaica alone, the Virginia Railway Express speedrun was much simpler at 3 hours, 59 minutes, and 35 seconds, consisting of just 3 trains and 2 transfers, and is also logged on Transit Runs. Thanks to a nearby event in DC the following day, I decided to start at Spotsylvania around 5:30 a.m., transferred to an express reverse peak train to Broad Run, where it became the next outbound train to DC by 9:30. All done within a single morning rush hour, and before I started remote work for that day. Though as luck would have it, on the day that I did this run on January 9th, it was also the last day the train 334, the last leg of the run, was running directly to DC Union Station, since it would later be truncating at Alexandria due to construction of the Long Bridge, meaning I just so happened to get a VRE speedrun in on the last day where the original schedule and the fastest time could still be obtained. Shout out to DecoPunk1927 for coming up with a specific schedule for this run on the Transit Runs Discord server. Whereas I was the first person to record speedrunning VRE, I'm actually not the first person to speedrun IRR, as Emma Byron was the previous speedrun record holder, and people have informed me that they know of individuals who completed similar IRR speedruns in roughly the same time that I did, though I'm not aware of this info being publicly recorded somewhere else. Overall, I'm glad to have got these 2 speedruns in, as they definitely felt like they went by a lot faster than their actual times, especially the IRR run thanks to having a friend or two along for roughly a third of the trip. I've been planning these runs for the better part of a year, but I never had time to actually do them due to an increasingly busy schedule throughout last year, as well as not being able to have someone drive me to Montauk at the early hours. But now I was finally able to complete this run, as I've always wanted to make such an adventure, seeing how the Long Island Railroad is the busiest commuter railroad in the country with so many branches with incredibly frequent service, and it also happens to be my home railroad that I've taken almost every day for years, so it's definitely a full circle moment for me and for my overall interest in trains. Speaking of which, here is some interesting news. BNSF could open the UP merger with Southern Pacific, Markland has released a big boy made of 24 karat gold, Nigerian Railway Corps is out of the intensive care unit, a software error resulted in Basalan Transport to have double their actual ridership, Jimmy Here Live reacted to Amtrak Guide 365's History of Trains I Guess video, NYC Ferry made a heavily Gen Z core advertisement to promote their new routes, Tesla is to end production of the Model S and X in order to focus on making robots, Brightline is offering cruise rides on the Queen Elizabeth ocean liner with Cunard Cruises, while they also hired a new manager who used to work for Eurostar, DB Class 415 ICE HSTs ran on the Farewell Tour, JR East has converted an E3 HST to carry freight, while the same railroad is to develop a high-speed inspection train. Yontama has been named as the 3rd CAT station master for Kishi Station. Ameristar Rail has proposed their long-distance fleet replacements with their grand conveyance sets. GATX wrapped a grain car to represent the American Heart Association. Webster, Wisconsin is considering making a railroad park. Chattanooga Station Museum is up for sale. Essex Valley Railroad is to convert their SY class number 3025 to run on oil, and MBTA repainted F40PH number 1071 into a New Haven McGinnis livery, thus being the second F40PH heritage unit on the MBTA roster. Now here's the follow-up news section for articles covering stories from previous episodes. Vin Group has pulled out of Vietnam's high-speed rail project, likely meaning that the Siemens HSTs will be cancelled as well. Metro North has cancelled their express service to Albany due to Amtrak restoring all of their Empire service trains. You know, if I had a nickel for every time a top story I previously covered got retconned in 1 month, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice in the same month. Anyways, Metrolink's proposed extension to Santa Barbara has been cancelled. Oh come on, not again! The Gateway Tunnels has stopped construction by February 6 if federal funding is not restored, while the Portal North Bridge is to open on March 15th. A new agency called the Northern Illinois Transit Authority is to take over Chicago's RTA. Sound Transit's Link Extension and Floating Bridge is to open on March 28th, while South Shore Line's Westlake Extension is to open on March 17th. Baltimore has placed their Hitachi subways into service, while Great Western Railway placed their Class 230 converted BMUs into service. The Port Jervis Railroad Museum is to stay within Port Jervis for now. The Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Museum has completed their cosmetic restoration of AFT No. 1, aka Reading 2101. The first leg of the Union Pacific Big Boy America 250th Tour has been announced, including Roseville and Ogden. And the STB has rejected the 7,000-page long UP and NS merger application due to missing key information, with the two railroads going to reapply in March. No, this doesn't mean the merger is off, just delayed. In other news, Norfolk Southern started shared intermodal service on the ex-Boston and Albany main line with CSX with the inaugural run train featuring 2 heritage units. David Deck has been named as the new president of NICTD and by extension South Shore Line. Bhopal Metro has started service along with Kuala Lumpur to Johor Bahru electrification. Italy is to start their own rolling stock leasing service, while Italo released a new livery. Pesa has acquired Hyder Blick. Bolivia is looking to restore their rail network along with Cyprus with Cypriot Railway. The Gaspin line is reopened in Quebec. The new 2026 redesign of Thomas the Tank Engine has been revealed. Alstom is to develop the new subway train for Toronto's TTC, while Siemens and Stadler are to develop driverless metros for Copenhagen. South Korea has revealed the EMU 370 HST. TMH is to make their hydrogen multiple unit prototype, while Trenitalia has purchased a Hitachi battery hybrid. Ares has purchased the Arivia NL Stadler Flirt, while LTG Cargo purchased a Stadler Eurodual. CPKC has purchased SD78 T4s in addition to ES44ACs, the latter of which Norfolk Southern is also purchasing. Alstom has showcased new subways for Santiago Metro Line 7, while Garatran has showcased battery trams for Iraq. The Sadler Tram Link has entered service in Potsdam, while CAF trams have entered service in Montpellier. The Kintetsu Railway Series 1A has started service, along with CRRC LRVs in Guadalajara. The U.S. Army has placed their battery-powered GP38 into service. A B2B Connex has acquired a SW1200RS. Sierra Northern has released their America 250 engine. DB Cargo has sold some of their Class 66 engines to GFR in Romania. Ontario Southland has acquired 5 Alcos from the Sartigan Railway. SBB Cargo has retired their RE474 class as they're up for sale. Steamtown is to restore a Shea, specifically Meadow River Lumber Company No. 1. And Metrolink F59PH No. 851 has been preserved by the Fullerton Train Museum, thus being the first F59PH in preservation. After all that, it is now time for this month's Meme of the Month. This month's Meme of the Month is Life Imitates Art. And now, the top story of the January 2026 Pensyfan Periodical is Northstar ends service. This month has been especially eventful for Minneapolis, starting off with the permanent closure of Northstar commuter rail from Minneapolis Target Field to Big Lake in favor of more frequent bus service along the same route. Out of all the North American commuter railroads, Northstar has been hit the worst by the pandemic and has notably saw the lowest amount of ridership recovery, with 2024 riders reaching a minuscule 16% of pre-COVID numbers. Such a drastic drop in service was caused by Northstar's round trips staying at 2 and later 3 round trips post-COVID when compared to their original 6 trains per day, which was notably due to outside counties not wanting to provide funding to restore the remaining 3 round trips. Because service wasn't as frequent as initial levels, in addition to the commuter rail never extending the St. Cloud, ridership continued to decline until legislators decided to stop providing funding for the service, which ultimately led to the last run after the last Minnesota Vikings game of the season on January 5th. The closure of Northstar is truly a tragic story, as the service could be saved if it were given more funding and if it were extended to St. Cloud, as this marks the first time a commuter rail service was discontinued since On-Track in Syracuse in 2008. And that's why I highlight the saying, frequency is freedom in this case, as if the service can be more frequent and can be present at almost all hours of the day, the more people will be willing to ride it, since they know that it'll always be there as a present alternative to driving or taking the bus. That's one of the reasons as to why I speedrun the Long Island Railroad, as this commuter rail service has anywhere between 2 hours to 15-minute headways on all 11 of their branches, as their almost 200 years of service across the island has not only made them a Long Island staple, but it also makes them a visible and reliable alternative to driving, because its frequent service means a train will almost always be present to bring you from one destination to another. This frequency is freedom methodology can easily be applied to any passenger rail service in the world, including Amtrak, considering how their current frequencies for their intercity and long-distance services outside the NEC in California are mostly limited to 1 train per day, in regions that used to see anywhere between 4 and 12 round trips per day, meaning several towns are only scheduled to see Amtrak only in the middle of the night. But back to Northstar. Many people are claiming that the culprit behind the Northstar's downfall is that it never expanded to St. Cloud, and that travelers going that far would have to transfer to a bus at Big Lake that started at Minneapolis anyways. This also raises up the point to always support passenger rail projects, but also look for ways to consider to expand them in order to make better connections and to link together more towns, so this way the more people they help, the more likely they are to gain and keep public support and funding. In addition to St. Cloud, maybe propose expanding Northstar and other potential commuter rail or intercity services in several other towns in the greater Minneapolis region, such as Glencoe, Litchfield, Annandale, Hastings, and Lake Elmo. The discontinuance of Northstar is truly sad and tragic, as it's currently unknown what will become of their rolling stock, but let this be a lesson that we should always try to support more passenger rail by discussing several expansion opportunities with frequent and reliable service, especially with people who have the power to make these funding and voting decisions, so this way we don't lose any more services with great potential such as Northstar. Thank you everyone for watching this month's episode of the Pensyfan Periodical. There have been a lot of rail news headlines for the month, and it'll be very interesting to see what the future has in store for all these articles. Thank you again for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Have a good day.